Hi, I'm Carol, and on a recent post on the Aphasia Recovery Connection, Dr. Jackie Hinckley asked a question. She wanted to know what speech therapists could do to make the world a better place for people with aphasia in 2023. She said, think big, think small, think radical. So who better to ask than, ta-da, our VIP members. So here are the VIP members of Virtual Connections. So what is a VIP member? Every single person on this screen has aphasia. Every single person on this screen has participated in the Pathways webinars, meaning they took 8 different sessions. They completed all 8, and now they are the VIPs. So I asked them to share their thoughts on this question. And first, I want to show a picture of Dr. Hinckley. So here's a picture of Dr. Hinckley, and this is when David and I were at an ASHA conference, the American Speech Language Hearing Conference. Dr. Hinckley was one of David's speech therapists when he was only about 13. She's been very instrumental in his recovery. She's instrumental in the aphasia world, and she really wants to know what people with aphasia have to say. So I asked you all a question earlier, and I want to ask you this again because I was really surprised at the answer. The first question that we talked about today was, how many of you have had a good speech therapist? Okay, lots of you. But this is what really surprised me. When I asked the same group, how many of you have had bad experiences and felt you didn't have a good speech therapist? How many of you felt you didn't have a good therapist? This is sort of sad. So, in fact, it's not only sad, it's bad. It means this is a really important question that Dr. Hinckley asked. So, we're going to start answering the question. I'm going to call on you when you raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, on mute, and then we'll share this recording on ARC, on YouTube, and with Dr. Hinckley. So, Frank is sharing. So Frank, so you would like to see melodic intonation therapy. So yeah, I know music is really important to you, right, Frank?
Absolutely. And what I understand, big thing, everybody knows the song Happy Birthday. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding out that during the Christmas season, everybody sings Christmas songs.
So
I'm going to White Christmas, mm-hmm. Jingle Bells. Everybody knows those songs, and I had one of my Jim Clear, and he could say them the songs in every way. He couldn't much better.
Okay.
Anyway, that's something. This is a
good. So one of the first tips with Frank, and I think that's actually a couple of tips, was use music. But the second tip, because I know Frank worked as an attorney, but one of the things most of us know about Frank loves music. So I think that's a good tip for a speech therapist too. Create your therapy around what your client loves. Not what you love, but what your client loves. So good tip. Bruce Farrell, go ahead and unmute, and you're up next.
I think it's important to have the solution they give to you. That is, I can talk okay. I can actually roll numbers myself, no problem. But I can't read, not very well. it would be good for them to help you than anybody else. Does that make sense?
So focus on the solution that you're looking for.
Right.
So in your case, like, don't bother working on numbers. I have that.
Yeah.
But I want to work on reading. I need a solution for reading.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, it goes back to what is the patient interested in? And I think sometimes the other tail of that is sometimes it's getting your reading back, and sometimes it might be getting the strategy to read back.
Yeah.
So how do I use my phone to read? How do I use my phone to read a text? So maybe my reading is so hard, but I need to be able to access it. So helping people find strategies that access reading, great tips. And I know, Bruce, when Dr. Hinckley was at University of Michigan, and I know you just went to University of Michigan, and I know we know Mimi in common, and I know Jackie will know Mimi too. So anybody else here go to University of Michigan by chance? Okay. All right. Brooke Allen, you are up. Go ahead and unmute. You're up, girl.
All right. Well, I think, sorry.
You're fine.
Sorry. I think in my group, we talk about we want to have a goal that we wanted. And then we wanted to talk about how we wanted to do the process that we want to do. And sometimes we were able to do everything, and then they just let us be, and there's no challenge after that. So sometimes there needs to be, yeah, we got that down, but now we need the next step. And that's something that I think that would be good as well.
So, and I know you fairly well, Brooke, and you are a great advocate for people with aphasia. And one of the things I know about you is you're very determined and consistent on consistently working toward goals. Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is you felt like sometimes you went into speech therapy and you got something down, but then you felt the ball was dropped. There wasn't a new challenge, or what should I work on tomorrow, or what should I work on between now and when I see you again?
Right.
And we all know that neuroplasticity is all about repetition and practice, practice, practice. So maybe part of the job of a really good speech therapist is to be that cheerleader and mm-hmm. encourage you and challenge you. And Brooke, I know you're really good at challenging yourself, but I think you speak for a lot of people with aphasia. Having that speech therapist challenge you would be really, really helpful.
Yes, and make sure that they just encourage you.
Yeah, encouragement is really, really important, and keeping hope alive. Yeah. Yes. How many of you have ever had a speech therapist tell you that you've plateaued and that you're done? Oh my. Are you serious? Oh my gosh, this is almost half of you. To me, that's a shame. That's a shame. What we know about neuroplasticity is that people can continue to make gains. And there's recovery of getting the skills back, and then there's recovery of getting the strategies back. And I think it's really, at least in my opinion, it's the speech therapist's job to not only work on getting those skills back, but getting the strategies back. And how many of you feel that you got enough strategies back? Did you feel you... Go ahead,
Yes.
Aisha. Go ahead.
Endurance.
Endurance. Endurance.
No. Insurance.
Insurance.
Yes.
So sometimes that you might have been told that you're plateaued or you're done, but that's driven by insurance
Yes.
But doesn't that sort of take your hope away when somebody does
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, all of you should be keeping in mind, it's December. For most of you, your insurance resets next year. So you should be able to go back to therapy next year. So that would be one of the tips that we could give speech therapists too, is if they need to drop you from their caseload because of insurance, instead of saying you're done, what they could say is, I think for now, for this year, we need to take a break. Insurance is going to stop. But maybe next year, we should start again. Let's set some new goals. Let's work on some new techniques and strategies and keep going. And how many of you were referred to programs like Aphasia Recovery Connection or Voices of Hope or Zoom calls? How many of you got referrals? I'm seeing some thumbs down. How many of you, let's find out how many of you actually got a referral to some sort of program to stay active. 1, 2, 3, 4, just a few of you. Okay, do you think that would be helpful if speech therapists help people get engaged?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Open chat right now.
Open chat. So every Sunday we do an open chat where people with aphasia come together. I do them every Sunday on Virtual Connections, and people practice in a safe environment, practicing social skills with one another, whether they can't talk at all or whether they can talk a lot. And there are people even on this call right now that probably have trouble saying a single word. But do you think they benefit from being with the group?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we all know how lonely and frustrating aphasia is. So even people that are nonverbal benefit from social connection and knowing they're not alone. So I think sometimes people don't get the referral because they think, well, their speech is too bad or they need more support. I think just coming together is half of the support, right? Yeah. Sherry, go ahead. Sherry.
I also think what you said applies for the therapist. They can say, okay, we'll take a break now. This is what I want you to practice on for the rest of the year. That way they're still practicing. They're not just stopping at that point and then picking them back up, and will there be backwards stop? You want them to be going forward.
I love that, Sherry. So keep people going forward. So even if you stop seeing the patient, you don't stop their therapy plan. One of David's favorite sayings has been, there is no stop sign on the road to recovery. And nobody should put a stop sign in front of you, least of all your speech therapist. Even if they have to stop therapy, they should leave you with something that you feel you're moving onward, and that you have tasks, and that you're left with hope, and you know what you should be working on. Sherry, did you find that's how your speech therapist was with you? Have you had that experience?
No, my speech therapist said I did not have aphasia, and I had aphasia, and I knew that I had aphasia, and I didn't get my help until COVID.
Wow.
When I joined ARC.
And what has been helpful for you having joined ARC and joining Virtual Connections? How has that helped you?
Well, it helped me with the community of people. The community has helped me to grow because I took the reading group, and in the reading group I got depressed. And when I got depressed, I was able to share with others why I was depressed. Because I couldn't speak right, and I was having a real hard time and they all gave me tips on how. And they were still encouraging every week.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is such value in being with other people who share this journey. And I think sometimes that's discounted. I think we often think of aphasia and we think, well, the person who's going to fix it is the speech therapist in that clinic. But the reality is that speech therapist in the clinic, she's like a coach and she's guiding it. But there's so much value to the psyche and to your well-being by coming together. And I think that's the magic that we have on Zoom. You know, ARC has been doing video calls on Zoom since 2013. And like Sherry said, it was because of COVID then that we partnered with Lingraphica to make it much bigger. And today we have over 70 volunteers, and we offer sessions every single day of the week, and they're absolutely free because this work is important. Go ahead, Sherry.
I had a couple of things that they said in my group. The background noise, like Asha said, and when it too many people talking and background noise confuses her, and that it makes her want to log off. It doesn't make her grow with the group. Also, they need to speak slowly to you sometimes, and put the pic up. This is. They need to put pictures up. Do not speak during the pictures because some of us can read when you're not hearing noise. Some of us can read when others are talking about it. So you don't speak for a little bit and then speak. And also empathy and patience, a lot of patience. And also raise your hand. Don't just everybody jump in at once because that's like a bunch of dogs rummaging and it's too much.
Yeah.
And the last one that we also said is letting us help with our own recovery. Like you guys have allowed some of us who are better readers to help assist with reading our book that we're reading for book club. We're able to help other aphasia members assist with reading by helping.
Yeah. Well, and I think you've inspired people too, because aren't you doing some volunteer work now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that has inspired other people to see what you're doing and that you're getting out of your comfort zone. And I think we all inspire each other. You know, Mary Morrill is somebody who does a lot of scrapbooking. A lot of us, as we've gotten to know each other, I think you've inspired each other far more than any facilitator or any of the speech therapists can do because you all live it. You all live it and really inspire. Mike Ogden had his hand up. Mike, you ready? Go ahead and unmute. Mike Ogden from the UK. Hi, Mike.
Hi. I want to say, when you put your hand up, everybody always talk, and let the person talk.
Let the person talk, yeah. And I think that's why I think it's good, especially on Zoom calls, is if we learn to use the mute button and mute as much as you can unless you are speaking, and always raise your hand. Yeah. And the other thing is that I will say is I think it's also sometimes hard, and now I'm talking not necessarily about speech therapists, but I'm talking about Zoom calls, but a lot of speech therapists run Zoom calls. I think sometimes it's hard if you don't speak a lot and somebody does a lot of the talking. That can also feel discouraging because for somebody who talks really well, then somebody else might feel like, I can't talk that well. So I think it's important that we take turns and that we allow plenty of time for everyone, regardless if they can say 1 or 2 words or if they can say 10 words at a time. Give everybody a chance to talk. Okay, Joy, your hand is up, and then Janet. Go ahead and unmute, Joy.
I think I am probably talking about, I probably did this, okay, so my group, one of the things that they said was that the speech therapist, one said the speech therapist was good, but they did not allow them to, what they want to do. And I think that was Bruce was saying the same thing. Allow the person to do what they want to do, because the person thought they could read well, talk well, but they cannot write, and they weren't allowed to write.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the whole group a question, Joy. That's such an important question. By a show of hands, how many of you felt you got to pick the goals? Just a few of you. How many of you felt the speech therapist always picked the goals? Okay. Who do you think should pick the goals?
Me.
Me, with her, with the person.
Okay. So I think that message has come out loud and clear. So I think it's really good. You guys are awesome teachers for speech therapists. And I think this will make a great YouTube, because I think this YouTube would also be really helpful for professors to show grad students. Because so many people in grad school, they might meet 1 or 2 or 3 people with aphasia, but look, they've met so many of you as VIPs, and you're all different, and you all have different skills and different levels of communication. Janet, you can unmute. You are next, and then I think Walter had his hand up. So, Janet, you're up.
I was talking what Joy, and with this group, I was going to say same thing she was saying. I think we should have more time to just talk with each other. I thought it was great in our group because we could just talk. So that was, I think Joy took care of it all, but that's all I was saying.
So, Janet, I want to just dovetail on that. So this last week in Open Chat, which is a Sunday call that we do where people practice, I usually give people a topic. And then this week I said, just practice social conversation. You're making friends. And you all love that, didn't you?
I love it. Yeah.
So I called Allie and I said, you know, Allie, what people with aphasia also want is they don't always want us to give them the topics. They just want to practice social conversations. Okay? Yeah. All right. Walter, your hand was up, right?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Walter.
When I was with the speech, they didn't talked to me like I was a little kid or whatever, and trying to speech, and they didn't have good the computer was not good, and you know they need to do something that helps. Like I say, I'm on this is helping me. I can't write, but I've got some things on the phone that helps me on that, and we need to do that for the speech to the therapy more than what all that is done. So,
Walter,
you know what I'm talking about.
I absolutely do, and I'm really glad that one of the things you just brought up, because I think this is so important for new speech therapists to remember, and it's a good reminder for people who've been in the field for a long time. People with aphasia are smart. They want to be treated with respect. If you, as a therapist, want to continue to motivate your clients, you want to treat them with respect, that they're intelligent, and find out what their interests are so that they can't wait to come back to therapy again next week. Because I can't imagine, Walter, if I was you and I went into a therapy session and somebody treated me like I was a little kid and not very smart, my attitude might be like, I don't want to go back next week. Come on. How many?
And all they was wanting about is on the people on the pay. That's all. And they was trying to do something. Here people was coming in and out and all that. You can't do nothing like that.
Yeah, you want your time really maximized and maximized really, really well. So you guys have been great with all of these ideas. There's somebody here, one of our VIP members. Is he still here? He is. I want to highlight one of our VIP members who's attended all of the pathway sessions. And he's somebody who has a really hard time talking. But sometimes we give him a salute. Who knows who I'm talking about? Sean. Sean. Okay, Sean, I'm going to highlight you. So Sean is one of our VIP members. Hi, Sean. You're there with your mom, Karen. And a lot of times we as a group, we like to give you a salute. So hold on one second. I'm going to make it so that you can see the whole group. Okay, now you can see everybody. We like to give him a salute because what was his job? Who knows Sean's job? He was a Thunderbird pilot. Okay, so let's give Sean our salute. We always like to thank him for his service. And I think that's part of what we do on Zoom too, is sometimes people think, well, it's not good if somebody's not very verbal. Sean is as much as a part of our community as those of you who talk a lot. It's important that we support everyone and their strengths. And Sean, we are always delighted to see you on our calls. Yes, we are. All right. Who else would like to share? Anyone else want to share what makes a good speech therapist? Any last tips? I'm going to share one that my son gave once. There's two things he said, because I've asked him this in groups before, and he's given two different answers, and I haven't heard either one here yet. Once I said, what makes a good speech therapist? And he said, I like the ones who bring candy. Okay, but think about it. I think it's important that speech therapists realize that going to speech therapy and losing your speech and probably losing your job and maybe your friends, life is challenging. And David always liked it when he walked into a room and they sort of lit up like, David, I have a candy bar. He liked that because I think that's part of building a relationship. Another time I asked him, David, what makes a good speech therapist? Or what do you think would make a good speech therapist? And he gave a very unusual answer that surprised me. He said, I think every speech therapist should have a therapy dog. I said, David, a therapy dog? And he said, yes. He said, I went to speech therapy for 15 years. It's not fun. He said, a lot of times I didn't look forward to going to therapy. But I think if there was a therapy dog, I would have looked forward to it. We could practice talking about the dog. Maybe we could practice writing about the dog. Maybe we could try to read a story about the dog. And I actually thought, that's not a bad idea. But it goes back to how very, very important your speech therapist is to you. They have to get you. They have to understand that aphasia impacted your language, but it also impacted your life. And that's why the life participation approach to aphasia is so important, helping you get back to life, connecting you with programs like Aphasia Recovery Connection, or with the National Aphasia Association, or Voices of Hope, or the Aphasia Center. There are programs around the country, online and in person. Get connected. And a lot of times you, as the person with aphasia, aren't sure how to get connected, but a speech therapist can help you do that. You all have been amazing. I am just so delighted that we have such a strong group of VIPs. You have made an incredible video. I got to tell you, I think this video will be watched at a lot of universities, and you will be able to teach other people a little bit more about aphasia. There are different types of aphasia and how it's impacted each one of you in a different way. So thank you so much for that.